Hello there, you awakening wonders. You're watching Stay Free with Russel Brand. We are a little bit late because we have been swimming in a deluge of propaganda. Trump's trial awaits us. His speech from Mar-a-Lago has been delivered. We can now unpack the 34 charges and decide for ourselves whether they are misdemeanors or felonies and how they stand up against the great war crimes of recent history. We're going to be having a deep look at how the crimes of Trump stack up against the crimes of Biden, Obama, Bush, and Clinton, and what laws we uphold, what are our true values, and in a sense, how this spellbinding, hypnotic show is distracting us from deep, deep truths. We've got a fantastic guest coming up. We've got Adam Andrzejewski. What's amazing about this guy is he spends all his time bothering people that have access to, I would say, files of incredible corruption and revealing them to us. So first of all, let's have a look at Donald Trump ignoring the mainstream media's pleas for a quote, and then look at a virtual child getting an exclusive. Have a look.
President Trump, will you come speak to us? President Trump?
Trump then walking out of court without a word.
How did you plead, President Trump? How did you plead? President Trump.
There you go, the mainstream media unable to get Donald Trump's attention. You'll have noticed that every single detail is being amplified and magnified, essentially because there's very little to look at in reality. But now we live in a world where Jar Sosa 25 is able to extract an exclusive on the street. Check this out.
Trump, tell him you innocent, bro.
Not a prosecution, it's a persecution.
You innocent. I'll remember that, bro.
Amazing. It's a persecution, not a prosecution. In a way, I think you can see right there, Gareth, not in microcosm, but in that opposition, the problem that we have now, that the mainstream media once had sole access to information. Now we all have access to information as well as the ability to communicate it. So what the mainstream media now requires is either authority and legitimacy, which it can no longer make claim to because of the way that it's funded, because of its biases. So now what it needs is to be able to delegitimize the opposition. The fact is that a kid on the street has extracted more information from Donald Trump than MSNBC, than CNN. And so in a way, the theatre and the performance of media has become more valid than its actual access to facts.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the mainstream media were really excited about with this case was that obviously cameras weren't allowed inside the courtroom. And so one of the comments, I think Robert Sherman, who's coming up later, was really excited, and a piece that we were looking at of his yesterday where he was saying, you know, it's like the old days, it's because people can't use social media inside the courtroom, they're going to have to come straight out and report to the mainstream media. So this was a chance for the mainstream media to get it back, to get their power back. But as we see in this case, they tried and failed with Trump, and a kid on the street using social media has got more access. It's amazing.
It's extraordinary, really. I guess that's what we're living in. Centralized authority is being continually challenged. They have the opportunity to revise their models and accept more democracy, accept more decentralization, accept that there are different ways of reporting, different ways of seeing reality, or double down on authoritarianism by condemning and smearing peripheral figures, whether they are in media or in politics. Their legitimacy is, I think, being not only eroded, but almost completely vanquished. When you see them criticizing and condemning Russia for the arrest using the Espionage Act of that Wall Street Journal journalist, while Assange remains in prison in Belmarsh, you recognize that the hypocrisy is so pronounced that there's barely anything that you can trust them on. Let's have a look. They're giving they must know that putting Trump in this position gives him the opportunity to do stuff like this. And I think about this often. I think that if you are a sort of one of the virulently anti-Trump folk that really are passionate about your hatred of Trump, that see him as like the epitome of the problem, I wonder how you feel when you watch him at Mar-a-Lago and he is able to say there was the first impeachment hoax, there was the Hunter Biden laptop thing, there was the attempt to ally me with Russian disinformation. I wonder how they process that. I wonder how they are able to say, no, Biden is significantly different in these ways. I don't know how you can legitimize your condemnation anymore, other than in the sort of vulgarity of Trump, say, because I'm talking about how they condemn and criticize.
Interesting what you're saying about the Hunter Biden, because obviously that was broken on Twitter, wasn't it? And then repressed on Twitter. And it's interesting at the moment with all the mainstream reactions to Trump. And of course, we saw Matt Taibbi recently in Congress.
Yeah.
And this issue of kind of mainstream versus social media or independent journalism is really playing out with this. And you really see in the Trump case, the way in which the mainstream media are focused on such minutiae, like whether or not Donald Trump stares in a certain direction or, moves from left to right. And yet at the same time, there's the kind of vilification of independent journalists, that Matt Taibbi. And you really feel that that's where truth is coming from now, independent journalism, even through like social media. And we're seeing play out in front of us the ridiculousness of the mainstream and its focus on the minutiae.
You're right. Like they sort of it's that they question the credibility of a journalist like Matt Taibbi, but then, as you say, on the mainstream media, they try to sort of suck analysis out of the angle of Donald Trump's head in a courtroom. Oh, he's looking this way. He's definitely angry. It's like all they have now is speculation, undergirded by lower third graphics. That's what they can offer now. Just endless pontification. Here's Trump in the sacred Mar-a-Lago, his Camelot. One of the things I enjoy most is the way that Trump sort of refers to Mar-a-Lago as if it's like a new Jerusalem. They even came here to Mar-a-Lago. That means sea to lake, in case you didn't know. Does it mean sea to lake? Yes, it does. I can confirm now that that's what it actually means. Let's have a look at a series of clips from Trump's rebuttal and address from the sacred Mar-a-Lago. Let's have a look.
The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it. They attacked me with an onslaught of fraudulent investigations. Russia, Russia, Russia. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Impeachment hoax number 1. Impeachment hoax number 2. The illegal and unconstitutional raid on Mar-a-Lago right here.
That's like one of his main points, is that it's an unconstitutional raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, leave Mar-a-Lago alone.
Don't drag Mar-a-Lago into this. Have we come so low that
we've not suffered enough?
For God's sake, what are we, dogs? Are we animals? For God's sake. Please, once we start invading Mar-a-Lago,
what have we got left?
Who are the criminals now? Because what is Mar-a-Lago?
I don't actually know.
I can't, like, when you see it from above, is it a golf course? Is it like a hotel? I still don't fully. All I know is I want to go Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I bet it's fully booked. But the amount of press it's getting these days.
Gosh, if you would struggle to get a single dwelling, you'd have to sleep in a janitor's cupboard, in a closet. And this is a bit where he talks again. Again, if you don't like Trump, and I know loads of you absolutely adore him, but if you don't, I wonder how you deal with the Hunter Biden laptop thing. I wonder how you deal with the Steele dossier stuff, like the Clinton administration or the Clinton campaign, spent money on. And like, where we go later, when we're going to analyze this with a little more depth in a minute, we start talking about how successive American presidents in any properly judicious government would be facing trial for war crimes. So even if you feel like this is a super serious thing and that Donald Trump should be banged up for misappropriation of campaign funds or double entry bookkeeping or hush money to Stormzy Daniels, like how do you compare that with war crimes? We're going to look at that in some depth in a moment. Let's have a look at a bit more Mar-a-Lago stuff.
Just recently, the FBI and DOJ in collusion with Twitter and Facebook in order not to say anything bad about the Hunter Biden laptop from hell, which exposes the Biden family as criminals and which, according to the pollsters, would have made a 17-point difference in the election result. And we needed a lot less than that, like about 16.9. It would have been in our favor, not my favor, our favor, because our country is going to hell.
He's able to bring up significant points that seem more important than the amplification of a misdemeanor to a felony. When he talks too about bringing the world to the brink of Armageddon, you feel like, what are our priorities here? Should we have a look at some of the charges in a little more detail so we can try and get a handle on this thing? So the 34 charges hinge on hush money payments the former president allegedly made to porn actress Stormy Daniels. Yet paying hush money to prevent publication of an adulterous sexual encounter is not a crime. Alexander Hamilton did it. Wow, he's got a whole musical about him.
Yep.
So did thousands of other high-profile Americans. None of them ever disclosed such payments on public corporate records. Okay, so that in itself is not distinct. In order to turn a questionable misdemeanor into an even more questionable felony, Bragg has had to allege that the reason Trump made false entries was to cover up other crimes. Here is where the indictment is at its weakest. Although the indictment itself does not specify which crimes were allegedly in Trump's mind, the statement of facts indicates that they generally related to election issues. But if it's that, then the Steele dossier, the Russiagate stuff, the Hunter Biden laptop, they all feel like they exist in the general environment. They're kind of comparable cases of like the use of funds or trying to manage the outcome of an election. It's not distinct or discrete enough. The theory is that Trump hid the real reason for the hush money payments for the purpose of helping his campaign rather than to hide the adulterous affair from his wife, children, and business associates. It's weak at best and nearly impossible to prove at worst. Okay, sort of not really enough distinction. But to have a deeper look at this, if you're watching this on YouTube now, click over onto watching us on Rumble, because we're going to look at this with in a little more detail, comparing it not just to sort of other potentially frivolous or necessarily amplified misdemeanors, but to the most incendiary charge that could ever be leveled at a global leader: war criminality. It's certainly a charge that's being leveled at Vladimir Putin, but is it a charge that could be leveled at recent US commander-in-chiefs? Here's the news. No, here's the effing news. Have a look at this.